Hello everyone, I'm Tatiana Indina. Today I will be hosting for you this special Black Friday edition webinar about the most important and also my favorite topic in the world, mindful leadership. Thank you all for joining me today, and we are ready to get started. This webinar today will last about 1 hour, and by the end of this webinar you will learn about what mindful leadership is, why it is important today, what results you can get with this new skill set, how it can improve your career, your business, your life, and what help in developing your mindful leadership competences you can get from me. This webinar is for everyone who wants to become a great leader, whether you are a company CEO, an executive, a manager, a business owner, a startup founder, or an organizational leader of any type of organization, whether it is government or nonprofit, public or private company. This webinar will be useful for you. I decided it is very important to speak about mindful leadership today, especially today, as we see the world is getting exponentially crazy, and we see so many examples of bad leadership around the world that leads to catastrophic consequences. Speaking of politics, war between Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Gaza. In business, just this past week, we evidenced the most incredible leadership failures. One is from the company that was the most prominent leader in tech, operating at the forefront of AI revolution, OpenAI. It is still not clear whether it was a leadership failure of the board or by its CEO, Sam Altman, or both. But the result is obviously that the company now has lost its leadership position in the market. Then you heard the news about the Binance CEO stepping down and pleading guilty to violating money laundering regulations. We are still watching the experiment Elon Musk is now conducting with this X platform, and we will see how that will go and how that will end. But earlier last year, we also observed a number of epic collapses of leadership from a number of business leaders and companies, from FTX crypto platform to Silicon Valley Bank, or looking to previous stories from Silicon Valley, such as Theranos, WeWork, Terra Luna, and many other very illustrative cases of leadership mistakes and painful failures that became very costly for the founders, their teams, customers, investors, shareholders, government, and public. Then we have election season in the US, where we get to observe the diversity of political candidates racing for the presidency, including one with the most controversial leadership style, who is Donald Trump. We will not be discussing politics with you today, I promise. I just wanted to underline the emerging importance of this concept of mindful leadership as we are stepping in the AI revolution, importance of being a responsible human leader, being a mindful leader who cares about society impact of their leadership decisions, their statements, their actions. We will take a look at some of the famous leadership failures in politics and business and be able to learn from those mistakes. We will speak about what it takes to be a great leader in today's world that is disrupted by AI, torn apart by political polarization and economic recession. First of all, I want to make this disclaimer that the content of this webinar is 100% original. It was created and developed by me as an author, and no part of it was generated by ChatGPT or other AIs. You will get 100% my original thoughts, concepts, experience, practices that I can guarantee can be very helpful and useful for you. And if you stick with me by the end of this webinar, you will get a special gift, which is a leader's blind spot checker. It is a checklist of your mindful leadership skills, a self-evaluation tool that will help you understand where you are today, and what are your growth areas as a leader that you need to focus on. And at the end of this webinar, I will tell you exactly how you can get this checker. As you know, if you're a leader in your organization, honest feedback is often unavailable to you because people who are your subordinates or any kind of business partners will most likely not be giving you honest feedback about your leadership style or skills. So that is why leadership coach like myself and my program on mindful leadership can be helpful for you. That is why I'm launching this unique new program that I developed, Mindful Leadership, that you will hear about today. It is a brand new program. I'm making it available for all leaders around the world. It is based on my previous book, CEO 2.0, about innovative leadership, and my practical work as a leadership coach, executive coach with many prominent global leaders. And today we will speak about what mindful leadership is, why this is the only right way to approach leadership today and to lead in the future, and how to do it right. Are you guys excited to be here today with me? Are you looking forward to learn something new and important today? Do you agree that this topic is important? Bear with me. I will tell you more about it in just a moment. And now, let me take a moment to introduce myself. I am an international business consultant and leadership coach. I have over 15 years of experience advising Fortune 500 company executives, disruptive Silicon Valley startups, global entrepreneurs, and governmental leaders in Western and Eastern Europe, Central and Southeast Asia in the United States. I have many years of expertise in global and international markets, consulting global leaders, facilitating cross-border partnerships. I am a Fulbright scholar and a former Harvard Berkman Center scholar. I hold a PhD in social psychology. I have a number of international awards in psychology science research, technology policy research. I'm an author of CEO 2.0 book about innovative leadership, and now preparing to publish my second book about how to change your life and achieve your goals in 2 days. I'm a speaker at global business forums, including Davos World Economic Forum, the Digital Foundation, United Nations, and other prestigious international platforms. I'm also a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, and I founded 2 of my companies, Mission to Mars Academy and Indina-Consulting. What kind of problems do I help leaders solve in my companies? In Indina-Consulting, for example, we help business leaders discover new markets. We help companies from local markets to scale to global market, and global companies to localize their products and services, tailor their go-to-market strategies when entering new markets outside of the United States. For corporate clients, we provide corporate innovation services, help global companies discover innovation and learn about innovation by organizing innovation discovery programs, technology scouting programs in Silicon Valley and online. One of the most popular programs these days is AI Executive Briefing, when we connect corporations with disruptive AI startups and help them learn about the trends and inform their corporate innovation strategy and provide market research analytics. Basically, we help corporate leaders survive technological disruption, maintain their leadership, keep up with innovative trends, as they are obviously experiencing increasing competition from disruptive startups. In our programs, we connect corporate players and tech founders, also founders and investors, with each other. We facilitate partnerships. As I already mentioned, we are providing go-to-market services mostly to innovative startup companies, helping them expand to the United States and global market, helping them scale their business products and services from local to global market. We also help SaaS startups connect with potential corporate clients and early stage startup companies connect with investors, venture funds, and angel investors. Before the pandemic, I was based in Silicon Valley. Now, after the pandemic, I'm these days based in Miami, which is a new growing tech hub and innovative ecosystem. Definitely refreshing to be here. But we work on both coasts. And these days, after the pandemic, the world has become so distributed that it doesn't really matter anymore where you are based, especially when you work with the global market. Also, as an executive performance and leadership coach, I work with global leaders and help CEOs and executives become better leaders for their organizations, become innovative and mindful leaders of the future. So, working with all these diverse audiences of corporate CEOs and executives, startup founders, nonprofit and government sector leaders and officials, I had a chance to learn a lot about their pains, their challenges and struggles as leaders, and also their blind spots that often lead to leadership failures. Now, coming back to our conversation about leadership. If you are a business leader, a tech company CEO, a public or private company executive, some of the following questions probably already crossed your mind, or maybe they don't let you sleep at night. The world is falling apart with all these wars and political crises going on. How will it affect our business? The economic recession is coming and markets are getting more and more volatile. What should be our strategy to go through this? How would our quarterly report look like, and what our investors will tell us about our quarterly results? Will they be satisfied with our metrics? How will the board evaluate my performance? Do I look good enough as a leader? How should our company react to all this political nonsense that is happening around? How to increase our revenue? How to improve our stock performance? How to get new clients? How to keep them? How to get better reviews? What should we do about AI? What should be our innovation strategy? What should we do about the competition? How do we beat our competitors? How do we enter this new market? How do we dominate it? How do we win our new market? How can we move faster? How to build a stronger team? Who should we hire? Who should we partner with? How do we get more traction with the investors? How do we close this round? How to solve this operational problem? Hiring, marketing, sales, customer service. How do we get noticed by the media? What to do about this new legislation? How to avoid this lawsuit? Am I doing everything right? What else should we be doing? How can I perform better? Am I a good partner, parent? Am I doing enough for my family? Do I spend enough time with them? Do my employees like me? Am I a good leader? Most CEOs, founders, managers, and operators of all companies, no matter big or small, typically have very similar problems that keep them awake at night. Most problems leaders have are surprisingly very common. And let me ask you these two questions. Number one, what obstacles are stopping you from getting where you want to be? And number two, what barriers are stopping you as a leader from being as successful as you can be? For those of you who just joined us, I remind that today we speak about mindful leadership in organizations and beyond, about global leadership, leadership mistakes, and how to do it right. And because this is a very special Black Friday edition of this webinar and Mindful Leadership Program launch, I have some really great gifts and surprises for all of you who are listening. I will be giving them away at the end of this webinar. And while you're thinking about your answers to those two questions that I asked just now, I want you guys to type in the comments how many of those questions that I mentioned above you also have in mind, how many of the problems that you have I named. And if you as a leader have additional problems that I didn't mention here in my list, please do type them in the comments. So basically, all corporate leaders' pain points could be summarized in several blocks: competition, management, revenue, and other business growth metrics, operational problems, public reputation, stakeholder relations, whether it is with the board, with customers, with investors, with public, with media, with government, then reputational problems and branding. Then it is business strategy, innovation, and all the AI disruption. Then there is a problem of leadership KPIs and personal performance and productivity of the leader. As for startup founders, then startup founders' problems can be summarized also in a few groups around funding and investor relations, go-to-market, customer acquisition, growth, marketing, and the product quality, functionality, user experience, and also business operations from accounting to hiring. Plus also PR, stakeholder relations, personal competence and productivity. As startup CEOs often have to learn how to become a CEO after being a coder and engineer, so they often have to acquire a whole new skill set really fast. So the question is, how is the concept of mindful leadership can help leaders solve all these many problems that they have and that we earlier talked about? If I ask any of you right now what leadership is, on a common sense level, each one of you will be able to give me an answer. We all studied theories of leadership at our business schools, at our universities, and those theories are covered by many disciplines, from social sciences, political science, to psychology, economic theory, marketing, philosophy, even statistics, and the game theory. So how come that so many leaders, competent, great leaders, one day just step on a grenade and get into a really messy, major crisis, or even become a reason of one? Because most of them have higher education, most of them studied leadership as a part of their business MBA programs or other programs. So theoretically, they all know how to do it. But yet, somehow, on a practical level, this knowledge does not help them to avoid catastrophic mistakes. Apparently, we all from time to time get leadership wrong. Apparently, there are some misconceptions that leaders have about leadership. Today, I will share with you 3 insights that might make you think about leadership at a slightly different angle. So what are the most common false beliefs or misconceptions that many leaders have today about leadership? So one of the false beliefs about leadership is that leadership is something theoretical, something that is nice to have, a set of skills from some MBA business course, and that theory has nothing to do with real-world practice. Many entrepreneurs I talk to really think that leadership is some kind of an additional branding tool, an extra accessoire that is nice to have but not must have. While instead, the reality is that leadership is your number one asset that defines your company market recognition, financial growth, public reputation. And it translates into real, quantifiable business metrics. Today, I will be sharing with you these real-life leadership issues to showcase how leadership is not about those theoretical things you were taught at the MBA programs. The way how most institutions teach leadership today really does not help you actually become a better leader of your organization, because most of those things are not practical. So, okay, now you have the list of all those leadership qualities and skills, and what do you do with it? How this is going to help you in a moment of crisis or a really bad failure. It is still not clear after reading many leadership books what exactly you should do different in your company and how you should personalize and apply one or another methodology or concept about leadership. That is why I'm here today to help you connect the dots with real-life leadership problems and examples. The things that I'm sharing with you today are not theoretical. They are the most practical. Never though, I have a solid background in fundamental science, in psychology of leadership, organizational and political psychology. But most of the findings that I will be sharing with you are based on my years of practical work with global business leaders, entrepreneurs, government leaders, public personas on a global stage. Most of the tips and insights that I am sharing with you are my real-life experiences that I gained by meeting and working with hundreds of impressive and inspiring leaders in business, politics, who I learned from a great deal. And some of the famous leadership cases that I analyzed and studied as an academic researcher and that are now combined with my personal experiences as a business owner myself, as a business strategy consultant and stakeholder relations expert, as a leadership and executive coach. Today, I will be highlighting you some of the important components of mindful leadership model and framework that I developed as a result of my research and surveys and conversations with hundreds of global leaders across different sectors throughout my career. And today, I will be sharing with you some of the results of this work. And this is where we will start our conversation. Almost always, CEO of a company is a public figure that has a responsibility of representing company in the public eye. Often, CEO's public image is a factor that is defining company's relationships with stakeholders, including board of directors, your current and future clients, the public, media, company's shareholders, investors. For public companies, all of the above is reflected in companies' stock performance. That is a key metric to define companies' position at the market. This is for public companies. For private companies, leaders' reputation often translates into companies' revenue, customer demand, directly converting into sales. Basically, the leadership will define whether your company is making money or losing money. For example, organizations' leader presence on social media today and their communication with the public via those public social media channels is key. Social media today is not just some external noise, it is the pulse of the market. It can be a direct metric to evaluate your company's and your personal leader's public reputation. It is a metric of the social capital of your company that at the end of the day translates into your company's ability to attract new customers, to keep your current customers, and expand to new markets. And now I just want you to take a pause and think about yourself. How does your current presence on social media platforms look like? What is the state of your public reputation of your company and you personally as a leader? How does your public persona and your personal brand look like? Are you having important conversations with your stakeholders on those platforms? Are you directly connecting with your customers on those platforms? So my insight number one for you today will be, it is key for you as a leader to actively shape your public image and convey the right messages to your stakeholders, your customers, partners, investors, employees, to control and manage the discourse about your company. And the easiest and most simple way to do it is by being present on social media. The most visible tool for you to demonstrate your leadership today is social media. In order to demonstrate your leadership today, you have to share your public brand as a leader on your social media platforms in order to directly connect to your clients and employees. You have to express your views, your values, your stance to demonstrate your leadership persona through the right messaging in order to stay relevant and to be recognized as a strong leader. Now, though it might seem that not getting involved in any kind of provocative conversation today, not engaging in any kind of public discussions on any of the polarizing controversial topics, not speaking out and taking stands and expressing openly your position seems to be a safer and more rational strategy. But in fact, it is exactly the opposite of what leadership is. Playing safe strategy no longer works today. It makes you literally invisible and non-existent in the public field. And by remaining silent, you are letting your opponents and competitors to lead the discourse. Another question is that public communication of the leader needs to be done in the right way, without going extreme and blowing up your status quo, without breaking your reputation or anything like that. But that is something that we will be talking about later today. What I want you to think about is those questions. How do you represent your public brand on social media platforms today? Are you doing it right? Are you doing it in a right way? What would be the right way for you to do it? And it is not necessarily about the number of followers that would be your key metric to measure your results, but more about whether you are creating the right waves. What role your company plays today and what role you play as your organization's leader in producing the right impact on society, on your community. What are your key messages? Are you clearly communicating your company's values in times of uncertainty? Or are you remaining silent? And you might think that this is not a top priority for you right now, but deep inside you know it is very important. And yes, your peer manager told you about this 100 times, but are you really doing it? And what are the things that you are missing out on by not doing it today? Now we will speak about personalization of your brand. As you know, there is no longer such thing as a corporate brand that is separated from the brand of the company's leader, as every successful company brand is always a personalized brand. Every company's brand is always perceived through the prism of the brand of its leader. If I say Apple, you think Steve Jobs. If I say Tesla, you think Elon Musk. If I say OpenAI, you think Sam Altman, etc. Elon Musk, by the way, is a great example of a leader who is leveraging public platforms to build direct communication with the end customers of all of his brands and products. He is a genius PR person for his company. He mastered his community building on X platform and have taken it to the whole new level where he basically became the king of his own universe. He bought Twitter and now he became the face of X as a company, taking personal responsibility to improve the state of freedom of speech in the world. Responsibility, by the way, is a key metric of leadership. Leader is never afraid to take responsibility for solving big problems. And the bigger the problems are, the bigger the scale of your leadership. To continue this conversation about the importance of public brand of the company and its leader, let's take a look at some of the greatest examples in history. How did Apple manage to build such a successful brand that customers all over the world identify with? And today the company doesn't need to push to the market their every new product to convince customers to buy it. The loyalty to the brand is so strong that people are lining up in front of the store a night before the next iPhone is out. Why is that? Did you notice Apple advertising campaigns are never based on their product features? Instead, the company connects with their users on the level of values. Apple communicates to its customers the core values that their company stands for: the highest quality in the world, perfect design, user experience, sustainability, efficiency. Customers buy into your business values, not your product features. Now let's take a look at Tesla advertising campaigns. Have you guys seen one? Probably not, because there isn't any. Tesla is the only car company among all car manufacturers who managed to build world's leading brand with zero marketing budget on advertising. You can explain it with Elon Musk's personal brand and PR genius, but the matter of fact, Tesla owners share the values that the company's founder, Elon Musk, stands for: sustainable future with electric cars, agility, uniqueness, disruptive innovation. And because people buy into these values of the company's leader, they will keep buying everything this company sells. From flamethrowers to tequila to neuro implants to rockets. Misalignment in the values or ethical misconduct or ethical conflict, on the contrary, would be one of the most typical leadership failure scenarios in business. For example, in recent OpenAI company scandal, though official reasons were never announced to us, as the only explanation that the board provided about why they fired Sam Altman was his failure of consistent communication with the board. And we can speculate about the possibility of different scenarios, such as conflict of interests, withholding information from the board about OpenAI security breach, for example, as the company already had previous incidents of data leaks. It is also known that Sam Altman, as a Y Combinator founder, invested heavily in multiple other AI startups, and that he might be sharing OpenAI's training data with some of the companies that he invested in and had interest. One of the other speculations made by some media analysts of why the most impactful company in the AI space, the leader of global AI revolution, went down was a speculation about some internal misalignment of the values. Maybe board was not very happy about all those venture deals that Sam Altman was making. As appears, he did not own any shares in OpenAI as a company, which made it possible for the board to push him out. Or was it about board not being happy about Sam's move fast and break things disruptive startup approach in rushing technology to the market without adequate safety reviews? Was it a value-based conflict when leadership was not happy with the founders getting personal gains from the technology? Since the board remained silent, I guess we will never know. One of the other speculations was about the board might have learned about some information that Sam Altman withheld when testifying for Congress that could potentially compromise the company's future and the board. There was also a scenario of a coup inside the company that has been discussed. But the biggest concern that was raised was about the company's structure and the fact that OpenAI was originally designed and founded as a nonprofit that later pivoted to become a for-profit company, and there was additional structure that was formed as a profit company, while still having people on board of OpenAI who were not necessarily business people. And when people do not have business motivation, they might have been driven by some other motivations, and that is also unclear. Anyways, it was a perfect storm with OpenAI unfolding on our eyes, and it was an exciting story to watch 24/7 for a few days. when critical and world-changing decisions were made by key players in a matter of hours and were tweeted at 2 a.m., 4 a.m. Did Sam Altman make any leadership mistake or did he not? It is not clear, but what is clear here as of now is that it was the initial decision of the founding team and their initial company structure of how it was designed that later led to this misalignment of non-profit versus profit structure and all the functional and role conflicts that later originated from this initial wrong decision. And overall, it was quite a responsible decision in terms of social responsibility for the future of AI by the company that was leading global AI revolution. There are many different angles for us to look at this story and the actions of different players. For example, Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO. As you know, Microsoft owns 49% of OpenAI, and it has put their reputation on OpenAI's innovation. And they linked all Microsoft's revenue of the future products to OpenAI. This is how much they believed in OpenAI, so they bet their financial assets on it. And we can only imagine what a night had Microsoft CEO that weekend when you know that on Monday the markets will open and you will have to somehow explain to all your shareholders your stock dip. And then it was Satya's effort to bring Sam Altman back as a part of a research team. Another remarkable leadership illustration was the fact that 700 out of 750 employees of OpenAI signed a petition so they would quit if Sam Altman will not be reinstalled as company CEO. And that includes engineers who were on work visas with OpenAI and who would lose their status in the country and will have to leave if they are no longer employed by OpenAI. What a remarkable sacrifice for the leader and an example of loyalty of the team to their leader. Every aspect of this OpenAI story was absolutely fascinating. The fact that Sam Altman, for example, the person who founded OpenAI and built the most revolutionary product since Apple Store, and the company that made the major platform shift in the tech world, the fact that this person can be fired in a casual Google Hangouts meeting online, and that the founder might not even have shares in the company that he founded, and that a leader of this scale can be fired by the board without any specific reason or any explanation provided, definitely makes a story for Silicon Valley and for the world. And I can say we are really far away from being disrupted by AI if the humans are doing a better job till now by disrupting themselves. One thing we can be clear about is that because of this constellation of various mistakes and various factors that led to world's greatest AI company losing its market position, and their stock took a massive hit, their social credibility is at question, their public reputation is damaged and destroyed, the trust of the community and stakeholders is lost. OpenAI really had their momentum. They had a cult of personality for their leader, and what happened became a cataclysmic event for them, a colossal value destruction for OpenAI. Now, after Sam Altman's return, if the board remains, anyone will have a right to sue the board, including all company employees. The IRS will be now investigating them. A nonprofit that raised $190 billion in value and then formed a for-profit entity. And now they're going to be an auction to sell their company assets. In any case, after what happened, OpenAI will no longer remain an undisputable leader, and it will level the field for all other companies, other AI startups, and give them an opportunity to catch up. But this will definitely be a huge loss for the tech world and for global innovation. This was an extremely interesting case in terms of leadership lessons to learn from and to look at it from every aspect in terms of leadership, internal politics, people's motivations, companies' behavior and interests. And definitely we can take many lessons for our leadership from this case. Lessons of ethics, of transparency, of decision making, of communication, the incompetence of people at leadership team, at the board, the decision makers, the dysfunctional company structure, conflict of interest, groupthink, personal motivations, employee and team loyalty, social responsibility of the company, and many, many other lessons of leadership. But now, coming back to you. What are your business values and your values as a leader? And what are the ways you communicate those values to your customers? At my Mindful Leadership program, we will be decomposing your leadership values, unpacking your mission, helping you craft your inspiring big vision. You will learn how to unleash your true leadership potential and become an inspiring, innovative leader that people want to follow. And getting back to the public brand and messaging component. I will honestly tell you there are only a handful of people today on Twitter or X platform who really do it right, who really represent their companies and their personal brands as leader and doing it often enough and in the right way. Not too many leaders of startup companies, of corporations are present today on those public platforms and available for discussions with their stakeholders. Most of the corporate leaders today and even startup founders are still hiding in the shade, not willing to be a part of any kind of public dialogue. Many operators and company managers don't even have an Instagram or LinkedIn or X profile or any other public profiles because they don't want people to know who they are. They don't want to share their story. And that is, my friends, a big mistake. As they're not understanding one simple thing: your leadership will not be seen, will not be noticed if nobody knows about what you do. What is important for you? What kind of great mission you're pursuing? If you're not talking about it 24/7 publicly, nobody knows and nobody cares. Those people who are not leveraging social media and other public platforms to promote their leadership, they do not realize how important this is for their company's future. They probably expect that their investors or their partners or customers will just blindly trust them without knowing who they really are, without understanding their values, without connecting with them on the level of those values, without being able to get to know you. But that will not happen. As you know, people buy from who they know, like, and trust. The same applies for investment, the same applies for partnerships, the same applies for any kind of collaboration. Your public image and your brand and your reputation as a leader will be formed anyways, but it will be formed spontaneously by the market and created for you. But you will not be the one controlling that process, controlling that narrative. And here we approach a very important conversation about the role of the public discourse. Speaking of the public discourse in a society that has become increasingly divided today on every topic, from pandemic to taking stands on the current wars and political campaigns, many analysts would agree that American society and the world in general has never been as divided as it is today. And because things are so explosive, many leaders are caught in this belief that it is better for a leader to stay neutral, to not get involved, to not take any sides, and to not take any risks, and just to take the play it safe scenario. And let's think about this for a moment. We live at the times that bring this unprecedented combination of challenges. Society is divided, markets are volatile, political and military situation is explosive. You never know what kind of minefield you're playing on. So your security instinct would be that it is better to play it safe and to lay low and to not get engaged in any of this. Any kind of political conversations or provocative discussions on any of those polarizing topics, whether it is pandemic, political conflicts, wars, or any kind of crisis. So you decide to say nothing and do nothing, and you're just waiting to be disrupted. Because when you decide to not take any stance, to not express any positions, you let other people control the narrative and control the environment that you're operating in. But guess what? The world will always have some kind of a crisis going on. So if you're waiting for the calmer, better times, you might have as well to wait forever. You cannot hide in cave all your life and miss out on all the fun. And also, not taking any risks is the only single biggest risk that you as your company leader simply cannot afford. I was always amazed observing how many fights regular people have about the politics and over these political candidates and different positions, and how far more calm, balanced, and casual are conversations of those people who are professionally involved in those issues. Their professional ethics of being in this field and looking at it professionally helps them to stand above those uncivilized discussions and battles and allows them to have very calm, very balanced, strategic conversations. You can even be friendly with your opponents, and not necessarily you need to hate them. You understand that they're just trying to do the same job you're doing, but on another side. So, what would be the right way to think about navigating those divides as a leader? I really like this metaphor of a kite surfer. Have you guys ever seen kite surfers? Have you observed them in the ocean, riding the waves, catching wind in their tail? They're probably not thinking too much about the sharks in the water and that they can break their neck at any time. They just learn how to navigate the environment, the wind, the waves, how to become one with the ocean, how to master the nature, how to be able to get where you want to get by joining forces and playing alone with the nature. And this kite surfer, believe me, is having far more fun than someone who's just sitting on the shore and watching them. This is definitely more safe to sit and do nothing, but this is exactly how you will not get anywhere. So you as a leader have to learn how to navigate the waves and how to enjoy the process and how to decode those public discourses and how to convey the right message to achieve your goals, to be able to connect with your audiences, to inspire them, to engage with them, to let them see your values, your spirit, your big mission as a leader, instead of just being a silent observer on the shore. Because if you don't, then someone else will definitely dominate the discourse and push their narrative that you might not necessarily be happy with. You have to be your business, your organization's number one evangelist and leverage all public platforms to spread your message. People will buy into your vision and will be buying your products not because of the great product features, but because of your values, of your brand as a company leader. In the course of my Mindful Leadership Coaching program, we will work with leaders like yourself on building their branding strategy for public platforms, tailoring their messaging. We will help you demonstrate your leadership and present your company through your personal brand in a right way to help you improve your engagement with your stakeholders and craft messages that will support your organizational strategy and resonate with your audiences. You can go to TatianaIndina.com, and I always say Tatiana Indina, but in fact it is written as Tatiana-Indina.com, and you can see it on this flyer on your screen. Go to Tatiana-Indina.com and choose your coaching package within the Mindful Leadership program. Book it early because, guys, to be honest with you, I only have time availability to work with few people because I know there are many of you who want this, but I'm just one person. I will not be able to help everyone, but I will do my best to help all the great leaders who will sign up for this. So make sure you get this deal first before the prices go back up after this special Black Friday sale, and you get the most value from working one-on-one live with me to help you become a better leader, a future-ready leader, mindful leader, and global and innovative leader that makes the maximum impact. And if you are a type of a leader who is trying to play it safe, I can't blame you. You probably have all legitimate reasons to be trying to avoid possible failure scenarios. But what are you afraid of? What can possibly happen if you make a mistake and if things go wrong? Let's zoom in on those fears just for a moment. What could possibly those horrible failure scenarios that leaders are so afraid of be? Leadership failures and dealing with failure is one of the key components of the mindful leadership framework and the model that I developed. And I believe it is important for every leader to be able to learn from their failures, as failure teaches us so much more than just success. So what are some of the most typical scenarios of leadership failure? A very typical example of failure is company gets disrupted by competitors, by tech innovation, because they failed to proactively change at the right time. And Silicon Valley knows too many examples of those failures, you name it. Sun Microsystems, Kodak, Nokia, Yahoo, BlackBerry, Motorola, MySpace, Polaroid. Those are all companies that are not leaders of their market anymore because they failed to proactively innovate. And in fact, only 50% of today's Fortune 500 list are the companies who've been on that list a few years ago. This is how fast you can fail and get disrupted and get displaced today. But then on the other spectrum, there are failures of companies that are moving too fast and breaking things, making irresponsible decisions, taking uncalculated risks, betting on the wrong strategies or even on ideas. And that can lead to many undesired consequences, such as, for example, as bankruptcy. In March 2023, over a period of just 2 days, Silicon Valley Bank went from solvent to broke as depositors rushed to withdraw their funds, resulting in federal regulators closing the bank. Silicon Valley Bank collapse marked the second largest bank failure in U.S. history after Washington Mutual's in 2008. It was an example of leadership strategy failure. The collapse happened for multiple reasons, including a lack of diversification of the bank's portfolio, By loading up on long-term bonds, Silicon Valley Bank has taken an enormous unhedged bet on interest rates staying low. That bet went wrong, leaving the bank insolvent. Silicon Valley Bank did not have the cash on hand to liquidate their deposits because they were tied up in long-term investments. They started selling their bonds at a significant loss, which caused distress to customers and investors. Within 48 hours after disclosing the sale of assets, the bank collapsed. The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank sparked panic among bank customers and investors, forcing the government to interfere and to backstop deposits. Silicon Valley Bank failure was a textbook case of mismanagement by the bank. Its senior leadership failed to manage basic interest rate and liquidity risk. Its board of directors failed to oversee senior leadership and hold them accountable. Another great example of leadership strategy failure is Disney. Disney firing their director of diversity, equity, and inclusion, whose strategies led to Disney getting major reputational damage and losing money because of its latest controversial movies and politics. Another great example, Silicon Valley startup WeWork. It is a work-sharing startup revolutionizing the future of real estate. It raised billions of dollars, signed leases in office towers across North America, was valued at $47 billion, attracted top investors like SoftBank, Benchmark Capital, and JP Morgan Chase, and later filed for bankruptcy protection. That became the result of a series of leadership mistakes of WeWork's founder, Adam Neumann. The founder who first disrupted company's IPO attempt in 2020 by selling his company's shares on the eve of IPO. That led to significant fall of the company's value. And even though this founder was forced to resign and accused in a number of questionable business frauds, even after his failure, major Silicon Valley investors, like for example Andreessen Horowitz, continued to buy into this founder's vision and even funded his next venture, a controversial real estate startup Flow that he is now launching in Saudi Arabia. In fact, Silicon Valley praises failures and likes giving second chances to failed founders. But the story might look a little different for the failed hero outside of Silicon Valley bubble. And it is one thing when the consequences of your failed leadership or leadership mistake is just your burned reputation, when basically nobody wants to do business with you again or invest in you or hire you, which, by the way, can also be a result of a bad press, which can cost you your position on the market, your company's stock collapse, losing your customers, etc. But far worse scenario is when bad leadership ends with lawsuits, criminal investigations, and imprisonment of a leader. And those cases are not rare. Just last week, Binance CEO stepped down and pleaded guilty to violating U.S. money laundering requirements, and Binance have now to pay fines of $4.3 billion. And also looking back at the FTX trading platform collapse last year, which, by the way, Binance CEO was an early investor at. FTX crypto trading platform collapsed after CoinDesk Media reported that its affiliated company Alameda Research derived most of its value from FTX speculative cryptocurrency tokens. A surge of customer withdrawals pushed FTX platform and its sister company Alameda Research to bankruptcy and shook volatile crypto market, which lost billions of dollars in assets. As a result, government brought civil and criminal charges against FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried for speculating $8 billion worth of customer deposits, generating false financial statements inflated with tokens to mask the shortfall. Sam Bankman-Fried was accused in orchestrating one of the largest financial frauds in history. In fact, SBF, as he is called, was running two companies. One company was borrowing assets from another company. Both of them were based in the offshores on Bahamas outside of the U.S. regulatory compliance. Alameda Research was a trading organization investing in crypto projects and crypto companies, and FTX was a trading platform. FTX would list Alameda Research tokens on its platform, and this way they were manipulating the market, taking liquidity out of market. In fact, they had this double dealing in place going on for a while. Just a few days after FTX failed, the founder, SBF, was arrested in Bahamas, where his companies were operating offshore. The government of Bahamas took control of company's assets, and the founder was extradited to the United States to face criminal charges. He went on trial and was convicted on criminal charges in November 2023. And it was hard to believe and to imagine this scenario at the peak of FTX's success just a year ago, when Sam was a rising star of the tech world, a crypto genius. His face was on the covers of all media, Forbes magazine. He was a major tech celebrity at every big conference stage, spending lots of time in Washington, D.C., consulting crypto regulators. FTX was sponsoring major sport championships like Formula One and supporting many political campaigns. And by the way, speaking of human factor, it was Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao who was an early investor in FTX and later became FTX's rival, because he was not happy about what Sam was talking about him in Washington, D.C., and he was the one who started the crush of FTX later, as he announced his decision on Twitter as a major FTX token holder to sell his tokens. And that is exactly what started the run on FTX business. After CZ announced that he is selling his tokens, investors and customers started to pull out funds from FTX. The exchange has become insolvent and had to declare bankruptcy. Next day after the run started, CZ first offered an opportunity of buying FTX, but then he walked out from that deal after conducting company's due diligence. What this story teaches us is not that a leader should not fly too close to the sun, but perhaps about not losing the touch with reality after seeing the first mind-blowing success, and staying compliant to the laws and regulations, and not breaking relationships with your allies, and sticking to the morals and ethical standards of taking responsibility for your customers and their trust in your company with their assets. FTX is a very similar story to Terra Luna collapse in May 2022 that wiped out $45 billion from the market. A company whose founder was also arrested and charged on 8 counts, including in securities fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy. And this South Korean founder, Doc Won, graduated from Stanford Engineering School. And similar to Sam Bankman-Fried, he studied in a prestigious university. FTX founder graduated from MIT. Similarly, Terra Luna's founder was praised and supported by its early investors. He raised over $200 million and had some of the major VC names such as Lightspeed Venture Partners, Pantera Capital, Galaxy Digital invested in his startup that was aiming to create a modern financial system in which users could conduct complicated financial transactions without relying on banks. And interestingly enough, that many analysts who conducted due diligence on Terra Luna's algorithm were warning investors that those algorithms don't work as described and will eventually crash. But that did not stop major investors from funding the company. And by the way, some of those VCs who invested in Terra Luna, they made 100x return on the company's collapse. The collapse of Terra Luna stablecoin that sent shockwaves to all crypto market, at the core, had an ethical problem of the founder, a criminal misconduct and fraud that took place and led to thousands of individual crypto traders and investors losing their money, and crypto enthusiasts and supporters losing their trust in industry leaders. And the last story I will bring up to your attention today to illustrate leadership failures would be Theranos. Silicon Valley's legendary company Theranos and its CEO Elizabeth Holmes, a 19-year-old Stanford dropout, managed to sell on her vision a great number of Silicon Valley investors and also well-known public figures, including some of the politicians in Washington, D.C., who were not necessarily very tech-savvy, as she claimed that the company had developed a new technology to do complicated blood tests from just one drop of blood in a very short amount of time. Theranos raised $724 million of capital from venture capitalists and private investors, ultimately reaching a valuation of $10 billion. Later, claims, of course, were discovered to be fraudulent. In 2018, SEC charged Theranos, Holmes, and former President Sunny Ramesh Balwani with fraud. Both Holmes and Balwani were eventually imprisoned for fraud. If you haven't watched the movie about Theranos, Dropout, I highly recommend you to watch it. Another great movie to watch is about WeWork startup, We Crushed. It is also a documentary about WeWork that is available on Netflix. The lessons to learn from startup failures like Theranos is not that obvious. It is not just about not committing a fraud. The problem with all genius founders who eventually disrupt the world is that they're almost always the outliers. They're almost always a little delusional. In order to succeed and to disrupt the industry, you have to be a little crazy. You have to be a crazy believer in what you do and believe in your big vision that it is possible. And in case with tech, you always need external funding to grow. Never though everything you have at the beginning is just your idea or your dreams. So as a young, ambitious founder, you step into this game, that system that Silicon Valley created, and that allows fake it until you make it mentality to a reasonable degree, which is key to surviving as a startup. This is how Elon Musk also started. But the problem is not every founder knows where to stop. And after you've invested all your life, all the people's trust, all the money in your invention, in your vision, and at this point, many of the founders are already not able to accept their failure. This is how they become trapped by their vision, by the promises they've given to investors, to the world, by the reputation that was put at stake, and by burning desire to win at all costs. And the big lesson here is a lesson of transparency with your investors, ability to speak with them openly and honestly about the problems that your company has, and to do it in time, before it is too late, and before your genius vision gets buried under the thick layer of lies. And let's be honest, after you've lived through the death of your idea, your vision, your invention, can jail really become your biggest problem? There are numerous examples of imprisonment of political leaders in history, and among civil society leaders, human rights advocates, freedom of speech fighters. Some of the well-known names are Edward Snowden, Julian Assange. So looking at those cases, one can understand that being fired as a company CEO is far from the worst case scenario. In fact, it could be a soft landing compared to really bad scenarios that we were talking about above. And for many leaders, from their own words, losing their job has become a truly transformative and pivotal moment in their life that helped them discover important things about their values and what they really wanted from their life. The end of one chapter is always the beginning of another. In my coaching practice, I worked with numbers of leaders who failed pretty bad, including bankruptcies, losses of their businesses, partnerships failures, bad divorces, company shutdowns, persecutions, etc., etc. And let me assure you that even after a bad fall, there is still life on the other side. And all of us failed at least once in our life. And every successful person unavoidably failed multiple times before they achieved anything significant. Success is never a constanta, but rather a variable. So we all must learn how to fail right. Knowing how to fail and how to rise from the ashes, how to bounce back, is what makes you a true, competent, and prepared leader. Not avoiding all the risks at all costs, but taking calculated risks and considering different risk scenarios, having a plan of how to operate and handle the situation when things go wrong, is to me a criteria for a good crisis times leader. For many of us, the story of bad leadership ends with news headlines that such and such company collapsed, such and such leader got fired or went in jail. But do you ever think, or have you ever experienced, what happens after, on the other side? When you are in this death valley, important skills would be to be able to process what happened, to reflect, but at some point, to be able to detach from your emotions, to find your resourcefulness, to create a new vision, to put yourself together, to find your motivation and your source of strength. Often to reinvent yourself and start moving in a new direction. What happens often to those leaders who refuse to take external help of a coach in a situation like that, and they just get stuck in their trauma? Start being consumed by it, allow it to destroy them on so many levels. This is where your inner critic and inner strict parents usually kicks in, when you start blaming yourself, weakening yourself, punishing yourself. And all this self-destruction and internal destruction, which is the final destruction, final damage that you could do to yourself, on top of all the external damage. The right approach for the leader in the moments of failure would be to provide yourself much needed support, to accept your responsibility, but also to embrace your human nature and ability to make mistakes, allowing yourself to be imperfect and being able to forgive yourself and love yourself despite of your failures. Also reframing your failure, rewriting the story of what happened, and rediscovering a true meaning of this situation. Because guess what? Other risk scenarios would be cases when failed leaders, businessmen, startup founders, politicians were not able to overcome their failure on a personal level. They fell so hard and the failure have taken such a high toll on them, so they never were able to recover, never bounced back or started anything new. I've seen many of those stories in Silicon Valley, especially when you are a type of a leader who has their skin in the game and who really goes all in. And there are so many stories of unknown heroes that we never heard about because they never even made it to the big public stage. And let me tell you this, the worst thing that can happen is not a financial loss or social liability, but a leader losing faith in themselves, starting having negative self-beliefs and self-concepts, start to change the story about themselves that they tell to themselves. And that equals betraying yourself and giving up on yourself. Many times, a person can be in denial about what happened with them and try to rationalize their refusals to go back in the game. So in situations like that, you definitely want to start working with your personal coach who will help you process what happened, recover and stand back on your feet, to rebuild your self-beliefs, to recharge your performance, and start winning again. But my point here, guys, is that I'm not telling you all these things to scare you, but instead to show you that even after a really bad failure, there are always ways and methods to still succeed. And this is just a matter of practice and developing right skills. I want you as a leader to be able to go beyond your fears, to expand your potential as a leader. Because playing it safe and not taking any risks in your life, in business, is not the right strategy for a leader to succeed. This is not how you're gonna win, and this is not how you will become the greatest leader of all times. Have you heard this proverb? The sharpest sword is being forged in the hottest fire. This is about leadership after the failure. I also want to normalize leadership failure here. I don't want you to think that leaders are some kind of superheroes that make no mistakes. Of course they do. And all those cases of bad leaderships that I was using today as illustrations, all those guys are all great leaders, as they were able to climb so high, to break through, to get noticed, to get recognized by investors, by customers, by public, by media. And they all had great vision, and most of them had good intentions. It just took one mistake, one misstep for their business or career to blow. But that doesn't make them evil people or bad leaders. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. And honestly, a leader cannot be a great leader if he is unaware of his dark side. Most of leadership stories are stories of overcoming life challenges and struggles, all kinds of unfair situations, disadvantages, disabilities, stories of overcompensating for some kind of childhood trauma, desire to prove something to somebody, to prove them wrong. Those are often the origins of great leadership. Because honestly, normal people with no neurotic complexes, they rarely become big leaders. There is always some kind of a dark, traumatic story behind all great leaders. So being familiar with the dark side, understanding the dark side of yourself, of other people, not denying it, but accepting it and having the right moral and ethical standards to operate in it. This is what it takes to be a great mindful leader. It was an Apple Macintosh campaign, I believe, Be Different. And I find this text to be really inspiring. I'm sure many of you have heard it. And I just want to share it with you again here. Here is to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. But the only thing you can't do is to ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. It really takes guts to change the world, especially in the state of the things that we are today. So I find it my mission to help as many leaders as possible to discover their true potential, but also to teach you how to avoid these costly, expensive mistakes by learning more about the mindful leadership, the concept that I developed by conducting research, surveys, and studies with many successful leaders. I came up with this mindful leadership framework and model, which in fact is a skill set that I teach leaders like yourself, in the course of one-on-one mindful leadership program with me. And this is the model that I'm sharing with you today and that I'm inviting you to explore on a practical level by going on my website, TatianaIndina.com, Tatiana-Indina.com, and signing up for one of these packages of mindful leadership coaching program with me to embark on your journey to become the best version of yourself, to become that mindful, unconscious, and innovative global leader, the change maker who will create the biggest impact. And that converts into you achieving your business goals, your career goals, getting recognition you deserve, expanding your potential, and getting to that next level. And crisis leadership and overcoming failure are important components of this model of a mindful leadership. And we will be working on developing your skills of overcoming reputational crisis, overcoming failure, recovering after a bad failure, and reinventing yourself. Today we have special Black Friday deal, so I'm inviting you to consider signing up for this unique and truly transformative mindful leadership coaching session with me that will help you prepare for any crisis scenario, prepare how to avoid and deal with reputational damages, and build your relationships with your stakeholders in a more mindful way, to present the right image as a leader to your team, your employees, your customers, your investors, your shareholders, your business partners, and the public. I need to tell you that because I'm also running 2 of my companies full-time and not only do coaching, I only can take 3 to 5 spots for personal coaching at this time. And I would love you to take this opportunity and let me work with you to help you reach your goals in 2024 and become a better leader. Our world desperately needs good leaders, and I'm really committed to help as many leaders as I can to become better versions of themselves. Now, you all amazing leaders here who came to listen to me today, you probably noticed that we talk a lot about examples of bad leadership and leadership failures and pains today. And I want to underline again that all these leaders that we were talking about today, they were not bad leaders. They were not bad people. They were just people who made mistakes. As nobody is 100% good or bad, we all are people. And all of those leaders were good leaders, successful and competent, just like you and I. And that's what allowed them to climb to all those positions, to be the chosen ones, to gain trust from the public, to be elected to their positions, to be voted for and be supported. And they would probably remain good leaders if one day they wouldn't just step on a grenade. Or in many cases, that also didn't happen out of nowhere in one day. But certain catastrophes were a result of a sequence of wrong decisions, wrong choices, sometimes problems with ethics and morals that leaders have. And at the time of the choices were made, probably they seemed to them as good choices. They might have not considered all the factors that played out and led to a catastrophe. And many of those leaders obviously had blind spots. And I already mentioned this before. When you are a leader on a top, you rarely get to hear somebody giving you an honest feedback or telling you you're wrong. People would avoid telling you truths, give you their honest feedback. People around you would be afraid to give you their honest opinions because they wouldn't want to compromise their relationships with you, especially if they are subordinate to you. The worst example here I could think of would be probably Vladimir Putin, Russian president, who reportedly was being constantly misinformed by his staff, people around him, who were afraid to disappoint him, to not meet his expectations. And this obeying the authority phenomenon was described in so many scientific research, studies, experiments. The conformism and groupthink lead to extreme and worst possible decisions to be made by organization, often with a silent approval of those on a leadership team who were initially against it. So here we come to an important insight that one of the main component skills of my mindful leadership model is stakeholder relationship management. And checking your blind spots by conducting 360 degrees review of your stakeholder relations is a part of the process in a coaching work with me. We will help you shed light to all those blind spots to reveal important information, get feedback that will help you inform your leadership strategy and style, and to improve your decisions. You don't think that you as a leader don't have any shortcomings or blind spots, don't you? Or as coaches call them, growth areas. Can be a quite eye-opening discovery. Are you with me? Does it make sense to you, all you listening, all the things that we're discussing today? How many of you would want to learn more about this and work on becoming the unstoppable and mindful leaders of your life? Can you relate to this? Type down your comments and your questions. Share some of your leadership stories, your challenges, your failures that happened to you, and how you were able to overcome those. I promise I will respond to all your comments and questions in the comments below after this broadcast is over. I really want to see more mindful leaders in this world and help more leaders to become mindful, as our world today so desperately needs good leaders. And the future of the world is dependent on each one of us. The truth is, there are no perfect leaders. We all are humans, and each one of us could do better. We all could use some feedback and must continuously improve and learn as the world around us is constantly changing. And the consequences and the impact of leadership mistakes, just like we discussed, when a leader is acting bold but never checks their blind spots, when leader is not being mindful, it can lead to catastrophic consequences for organization, for society, for your personal career. So think about the value you could get from getting an insurance to minimize all those negative scenarios and risks, to get prepared for them in advance. Executive coaching for a great leader is like a pit stop for a sport racing car at Formula One. Think of yourself as a Ferrari or a Lamborghini and what it would take you to go at your maximum speed and performance. If nothing was stopping you, how far could you go? In the course of Mindful Leadership Program, we are teaching leaders how to manage and build your public reputation, how to build and manage sustainable relationships with all your stakeholders. We conduct 360 degrees review and highlight all your blind spots. We do a diagnostics of all your skills, personality traits to help you better understand your strengths and weaknesses. At Mindful Leadership Program, we also help you learn how to take controlled risks, how to overcome any crisis or failure, how to stay resilient, confident leader at the times of change and when the times are uncertain, how to be diplomatic on current divided issues. Because at the end of the day, your performance as a leader directly translates into your company's revenue, your stock performance, your investor relations, your employee engagement, your customer loyalty to your brand, as they will always buy into your company's leader's persona. And you always must be an ambassador of your brand. Your customers, your employees, your partners, they choose you. They connect with you because of your values, your views, your principles as a leader. And it is really important for them to know where you stand, to be able to connect with you, to identify with you, to find common ground, to recognize you as the leader, to follow you. And all the work we do with clients is always 100% confidential, but you can still read some of the testimonials that my clients left, and I'm really happy and proud of their results. You're welcome to check it out at my website, tatiana-indina.com. Get more information about the coaching packages and make sure you enroll today and you take advantage of this exclusive limited opportunity, as it might not be available another time. Aside of overcoming crisis and failure, it is also important to speak about self-invention or self-reinvention of the leader. For each leader, it is important to invent your own style, to be yourself, who you really are, not somebody else. I was always strongly against these image-making approaches when public image of a leader was being perceived as some kind of a formal mask where we don't see the real authentic personality qualities of that person. And it makes it impossible to connect with that leader on a human level. Why Donald Trump's political brand became so successful? Because he was just being himself, raw, unfiltered Donald Trump. Love him or hate him. But this is who he is, a leader who dared to speak his real thoughts and avoid fake diplomacy. When the world was tired of being politically correct, he was giving people what they wanted. You can't win a battle as a leader by trying to be somebody else, trying to pretend to be somebody else. But you can only win by being yourself. You don't have to be another Steve Jobs. You just need to be you and cultivate your individuality as a leader. But don't hide in the shade. You must step out in the light in order to be seen. You are where you are today as a leader because you were already chosen for this role, chosen by people who believed in you, who supported you. Daring to be a strong leader means daring to be visible, unapologetic, strong, confident, authentic, unique, knowing what you stand for, and knowing where you're going. At our coaching program, Mindful Leadership, we work together to reveal your authenticity as a leader, to help you package and communicate it right, help you manifest your big vision. We will work together on perfecting your leadership style that would be authentic and unique. That would be true you. Are you with me on this? Do you agree? What was your process of self-invention or reinvention as a leader? What helped you to find your leadership style? Or are you still in a process of figuring it out? Do you need help with it? Are you ready to embark on a journey of becoming a better leader, to get to the next level and become the best version of yourself? Stay with me till the end and I will tell you exactly how to do it. But already now you can go to my website, tatiana-indina.com, and book one of these coaching packages for Mindful Leadership Program, where you and I will work together on building your unique and authentic leadership style to help you reach any of your goals easier and faster, to help you crush it at your work, achieve your peak performance and maximum productivity, to overcome any of the challenges that life throws at you, to boost your performance and profits in business, to work less and make more, to get promoted, to persuade, inspire, and connect with your team, your clients, your investors, your partners. And all that you will be able to achieve with my coaching program, Mindful Leadership. So if you're still undecided, this is the right time to jump on this opportunity. Go to tatiana-indina.com and book your coaching package while they're still available. So far, we've talked with you about mindful leadership model components, and they were risk-taking and crisis leadership, overcoming mistakes and failures, stakeholder relationship building and management, your public reputation and your brand as a leader, finding your unique voice and your leadership style. And I have a couple of more components that we will take a look at with you today. Just bear with me. Today, I would also like to speak with you about one of the most important aspects of mindful leadership, which is global mindset and cross-cultural competence. Remember that phrase from Game of Thrones that the winter is coming. And as we see now, opening news, for the last couple of years, the winter is here. The pandemic, the wars, nuclear threats, political divide, economic recession, times are unprecedented. And if you ask yourself what led to all those bad events and how did they occur, and almost everywhere you will find a human factor, a human error, as a reason of pretty much every disaster. Our world is being run by humans, and it is far from being perfect. Being more specific, what often led to all those divides, political polarization and military confrontation, international conflicts, is usually the diplomatic incompetence of the leaders and their cultural incompetency, cultural insensitivity, and often political incompetence. When I was working in Washington, D.C., I was an exchange scholar on a prestigious international Fulbright Fellowship program. I had a chance to attend many international high-profile events, and that's where I've seen multiple times how very high-profile leaders on a very high positions with important international titles were making unacceptable mistakes. And those mistakes were made during meetings with international delegations, presentations for the audiences from another countries, cultures, in conducting international negotiations or managing conflict resolutions. I was surprised to see how few of those leaders had actually taken special training on cross-cultural communication. The mistakes that some of those leaders were making were often very basic. When you're about to start driving a car, for example, you're supposed to go to school and learn how to drive first, then get a license. But based on what we see on a political arena, quite often many leaders operating on international level today lack basic cultural awareness required to be a global leader who is aiming to succeed on a global scale. The number one requirement for a leader on a global stage is their mastery of cross-cultural communication skills. And we've already seen to what consequences diplomatic incompetence can lead to. Not only we live in turbulent times, but we also live in a times of the greatest technology enablement when the world's getting more and more connected, transparent, becoming one big marketplace. Social media enables citizens to actively take part in global political processes and influence them, to share information like never before. So no small mistake of a leader on a global stage will go unnoticed. And we all seen those numerous cases of funny missteps of political leaders doing all the wrong things at the international level events. And each time you see those leaders making those cultural mistakes, they almost always do those with great confidence, because they surely know they're good enough for this role. And many of those leaders are, by the way, uncoachable. And while some of those mistakes can be just awkward or just be a minor violation of an international protocol, like, for example, the back or shoulder tapping for the Queen of Great Britain or an Arabic sheikh at the international meetings, to more serious violations or situations when it is no longer funny. The lack of cultural literacy can easily lead to international scandals, international conflicts, millions and billions of dollars losses, and loss not of just economic deals but also human lives. I wonder how many times confronting sides of a Russia-Ukraine war had a chance to negotiate the peace deal. There were multiple opportunities for that, as I remember, but it looks like no side was really interested. Israel and Gaza conflict is not a new issue. It's been going on and lasting for years. And the mistakes that were made by governments and politicians were often systematic and were often done much earlier by choosing the wrong strategy from the beginning. The costs of those mistakes are often human lives and humanitarian disasters, mistakes that could have been avoided should those leaders have a little more training and knowledge on cross-cultural competence skills. At the cross-cultural training at my Mindful Leadership program, you will have a chance to test your knowledge of different cultures and get prepared for doing business, negotiating partnerships with stakeholders from all over the world. Our group exercises that we have for this training are really entertaining at times. Being a mindful global leader today means realizing your responsibility and being able to speak languages of different cultures, understand their values and traditions. So let's be smarter and learn on other leaders' mistakes and think how you can get better and develop your cross-cultural competency and cross-cultural communication skills, and check your blind spots to make sure that your public appearances, your tweets, your social media posts would be appropriate and up to the level, and that your behavior or your messaging or your presentations will not insult anyone or hurt anyone's feelings or upset your business partners, so they would call off all the deals with you, and would not make your customers want to stop buying your products. To make sure you acquire and demonstrate the mindset of the true global leader who can understand audiences in many different cultures and countries across the globe and be able to speak their language, show respect to their traditions, values. Needless to say that those cross-cultural competence skills will help you land new markets, conquer global markets, open many new doors for you, help you build international partnerships, close your cross-border deals, negotiate peace, overcome conflicts, or better prevent those conflicts. You will be able to earn love and support of your customers across different countries. Or you will be able to raise funding from international or foreign investors if you are a startup. You will be confident in building your global brand and become a true global leader. And all that by doing the right thing and acquiring your global leader's mindset. Developing a mindset of a global leader will help you grow your business and expand globally. In order to do so, you can go to my website, TatianaIndina.com, and book your Mindful Leadership program with me for the next year. You will be able to see different packages on those websites that are available. You can choose one of the packages that works better for you. And please remember that this is a limited opportunity, guys. Our special prices are only available during this Black Friday sale and Thanksgiving weekend. And I unfortunately will not be able to take more than 3 to 5 people at a time. And I really hope that this great leader who I've got to work with will be you. This program is very unique and it will be truly empowering and transformative for your future. That I can guarantee. And the last important component of the Mindful Leadership program that we will briefly speak about today will be the ability of the leader to drive innovation. Being an innovative leader, being able to lead innovation in organization is an important KPI for the leader today. We will not be speaking too much about it today, but I just wanted you to be conscious about it. The perfect storm, the moment that we live in today, when we have AI at our doorsteps, now doing things for us, but soon will be doing things instead of us. It is especially important to be a great human leader, as it is our responsibility as humans to ethically guide AI and set the right standards for AI in human society. If you want to learn more about AI trends and meet various disruptive AI companies, you can book our AI Executive Briefing event for your team at Indina-Consulting.com. And there we will have extended conversations about technology trends and their impact, and the right type of leadership in implementing innovation. And while technology plays an important role providing companies competitive advantage, it might lead many leaders, especially in tech sector, to a belief that technology will be enough to compensate for the lack of our leadership skills. A deceiving belief that tech enablement and adoption of technology will make you a better global leader. Today, when you can automate pretty much everything in your organization, you can use AI to do things for you. It seems like there is less and less domains and functions are remaining for us humans. We have less and less responsibilities and requirements, but is it really true? Technology definitely will empower us, leaders, to scale businesses, to build global organizations, to win global markets. And by utilizing AI automation today, you can go to market faster, scale your effort more efficiently. But let's be honest, technology is just a tool, a resource, while crafting a right strategy is still remaining a human leadership domain. And technology will not make you a better leader. Leadership will most likely remain one of the few uniquely and ultimately human capabilities in the future. And we should not be giving away our leadership to AI anytime soon. A truly inspiring, authentic, mindful leadership is a purely human domain. It is our essence as humans, our unique ability to establish a real connection and lead by following our hearts. Leadership is the purpose of our growth and development, and the benchmark, a scale to measure how good we can be as humans. And surprisingly, as our world is becoming exponentially technological, there is more and more need in it for emotional connection, for authentic communication, organizing in teams, to inspire and get inspired, to motivate, to persuade, to lead by example. The truth is, about what will help you to win on a global market is those are your human skills and your global leadership mindset, your cross-cultural competence and your ability to establish connection, to share values with your customers and your partners, your ability to give emotions, to understand your customers' behavior on each one of your markets, and speak the language of your partners, stakeholders, and connect with them on a level of values. It is not the AI that will help you become an exemplary, mindful leader, but the right leadership strategy and the right skill set and the mindset of the true, global, innovative, mindful leader. To summarize, at this part we talked about the role of innovation and also the role of people skills, including emotional intelligence, as important components of mindful leadership framework and model that I am sharing with you today. I can't wait to read all of your comments and questions. Please share them with me, share your thoughts about this webinar, and if mindful leadership can be the right program for you, to help you get to your next level and get future ready. Go to TatianaIndina.com to see mindful leadership coaching packages and choose your package. Only this weekend you can take advantage of the special Black Friday discounts for this program. Whether you are a business leader, a corporate executive, a startup founder, a nonprofit or governmental leader, this program is for you. Because our world desperately needs great leaders like yourself. And I'm here to help you deliver your breakthrough results. For those of you who already made up your mind to sign up for this program, it will be my great pleasure and honor to give you this great tool, which I've put together as a result of my many years of work with great leaders across different geographies, across different industries, across different society structures and systems, including government, public sector, private sector, businesses, nonprofits, media, entrepreneurs. I've put together and packaged the best possible program that addresses all the challenges that innovative global leaders have today, to help them to improve and perfect their leadership skills, to not just remain relevant to the happening transformation and all the major tectonic shifts in our society, but also to become change makers who would make a positive impact in this world, make a meaningful contribution to our society, help your organization, your community to improve, to develop and grow in the right direction. This program was designed to help today's leaders prevent making costly mistakes and help more leaders develop important skills that will enable them to make the right decisions and right judgments, take right actions, troubleshoot current instability, and successfully resolve international conflicts, to find solutions to many problems the world faces today. And I really believe that the future is bright, and it belongs to the leaders who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Thank you for being with me today. I hope you liked this webinar, and I'm looking forward to working with you in a personal coaching format. Now it is the right time to go to TatianaIndina.com and enroll in this mindful leadership program, while our special prices are still active. You will see the descriptions of all packages and what is included on this web page. And also, everybody who is listening to this webinar, I'm inviting you to become a part of my network that includes already over 30,000 amazing global leaders. You can do so by signing up for my monthly newsletter, and you will be receiving my weekly and monthly useful tips on leadership, performance, and productivity. You can sign up for my monthly newsletter on TatianaIndina.com. And the last but not least, as I promised at the beginning of this webinar, I am giving away a very special gift to all of you today, which is Mindful Leaders 360 Degrees Blind Spot Checker, to help you better understand your strengths and growth areas as a leader. And you can download the checker today by submitting the form on my website, TatianaIndina.com, on the same page with the Mindful Leadership Program packages. I will be answering all of you guys' questions and comments under this video today. Thank you for being in this audience, and thank you for being so amazing. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I hope by now you've already joined my Mindful Leadership Program, and we will start working with you right after the new year. It was Tatiana Indina, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the other side.